Good afternoon to everybody on the call. You're very, very welcome. I'm Dara Fitzgerald. I'm the Executive Director of the Fulbright Commission here in Ireland, and I'm going to speak today about Creative Ireland and Equivalent Awards. I'm delighted to have on the call as well Fulbrighter, recent alum, Dr. Kevin McDermott, and also Tanya Vanotti, who's the Director of Creative Ireland. Who is a big partner for us on this part of the program. So it's lovely to have everybody here today. We will have an opportunity for a Q&A session at the end after we've gone through giving you all of the information. If you have, please remain on mute. I think that should be okay, but I'm delighted to welcome everybody. So without further ado, I'm just going to talk about our initial part of the program, where the Ireland United States Commission for Educational Exchange, and a major program we run is the Fulbright program. We do also act as Education USA Advising Center. So for people who want to do undergraduate or postgraduate study in the US, we act as a portal and an initial starting point for that. And that's so that's something that anybody going to our website can find if you go through Education USA. But the Fulbright program, which is the primary part we're going to talk about today, as you probably well know at this stage anyway, it's quite a prestigious program that was set up in the 1940s. Ireland joined the program in the 1950s, and in 91 we set up a formalized commission. So that means that you have an autonomous commission agency that effectively runs the program. The number varies in the 160s every year, but at the moment it's around 165 countries who run this program globally. So it is it's a local and a global exchange program, and it's quite extensive in terms of the network and all of the good stuff that comes with this type of program. And hopefully throughout the course of this presentation, you will kind of get that view. We are very much looking for passionate and accomplished people, and that can mean many, many things. We look for students, postgraduate students, scholars, typically people with PhDs, artists, teachers, professionals, people with 5 years plus relevant professional experience. Some eligibilities can be different. It can be the 7 years professional relevant experience, as we'll talk about for the Creative Ireland Award with Fulbright. And really what people can do, it's broad categories: to research or study or teach or lecture, and variants of that as well. So there's an opportunity to do a number of those things as well as part of an award. Again, just to reiterate, it is from Ireland to the United States that we specifically talk about here. And we obviously do reciprocate, where we have applicants from the USA who come to Ireland. Today, we're going to talk about the Irish awardees going to the USA. Do the awards provide? In a nutshell, there is a monetary grant, there's visa administration, there's accident and emergency insurance, then there's a lot of cultural and professional programming, engagement, and there is, I think probably the biggest part of the program is the ongoing support and links to a global network of Fulbright alum. And that's really what you're investing in as you step forward. It can be a lifelong experience. It's a recognized award, it's a recognized goal. It's Fulbrighters do tend to engage with other Fulbrighters globally, so you can join Fulbright global peers. But actually, what you're really joining is a Fulbright global family, and that is a real thing. I can say, obviously, beyond that, there are Fulbright weddings, there are Fulbright children, there are Fulbright grandchildren. So for a program that's been running for 77 years, there's obviously been a lot of impact developed from that. People go and have all sorts of different experiences. It tends to be tremendously personalized. And in reality, because we are primarily a cultural exchange program, that's what it's really about at its end. It's through education, through investment of knowledge and sharing of knowledge. But ultimately, it's very much a cultural exchange program. And in reality, what people really speak about, what they really bring back with them from the States, is the experience that they had, the people that they met. And we're very, very focused on that. So the application process, it's an individualized application process. It really, really is very much about what you want to say and what you want to do, where you want to go and how you want to do it and when you want to do it. So it's very, very individualized. Irish awards are open to Irish citizens if you have an Irish passport, if you have an EU passport or a UK passport, but you have been living in Ireland for 5 or more years, well, you can also apply to it. key element is always demonstrate a strong rationale for where you're going to go in the US. So really understand that. Explain as well why Fulbright, why not another program? Understand that. You would have to apply with a 2-year home rule. So that means that at some point you would have to live in Ireland for 2 years before you could apply for something more significant like a residency visa in the United States. You cannot be a dual US and Irish citizen. You can't be living in the US at your time of application, and you cannot have recent extensive experience of studying or living in the US. We do understand that people can have been to the US, and that could be perfectly fine. If you have any really specific questions, you can obviously reach out to the Commission, or we can give you some advice. But typically, you know, people, and also where you want to go into the US, because it's quite a big, diverse country. So the experience you have in one place may be nothing like the experience that you want to have in another part of the US. Your application timeline, well, the awards are going to open this Thursday, and then we will, when they close at the end of October, then we will go into November, December. There will be a review process, and we would expect then to call people for interview towards the end of January into early February. And by March, then we should know what offers we can make. So what can you do at this time? Well, an easy thing is to go and review the information on the website, look at other webinars recorded like this, go decide which specific award you want to go. Obviously, we're going to talk about particular awards today. Find a course or people you want to engage with, or an institution that you want to engage with in the US. If you know already, great, it's a step ahead. Do have a look at what it means to be a Fulbrighter, and not even just a Fulbrighter, but be a cultural ambassador for Ireland, and what that will do for you, what you can do for that part of the program, where you can really invest yourself. So these things are very important. You can register your interest from Thursday. Then you can register your interest on the way to starting your application, and then your full application. So by Thursday there'll be an opportunity to go to the last two parts of this. The types of categories, it's a little bit important, so it's worth explaining now. Student awards are for postgraduates. So either you're going to do some sort of research. It can be research in a very broad sense, or it could be that you want to do a postgraduate degree, master's or a PhD or something equivalent. As an Irish scholar, you are, if you're coming from an academic or a semi-academic space and you have a PhD, you qualify as a scholar, but you can also qualify under the scholar program, because it's scholar and professional program, if you have 5 years or more relevant professional experience, or in the case of the award we're going to talk about today, it's 7 years relevant professional experience. And you can go research, or you can lecture or engage with your colleagues in the US. It's worth mentioning Irish Tech Impact Awards, because I understand from many creative spaces there's an overlap with technology. So you may not be the person looking for the technology, but you might be the person or bringing a technology, but you might be looking for technology in the States to engage with. They're shorter programs, so you can go from 2 weeks, although recommendation is usually about a month out. And then there are Schumann Awards in the US that operate through the Belgian Commission. They tend to be higher level policy issues that are important to the EU and the US. Again, I wouldn't say that, it's, please do have a look, have a quick look at all these potential options, and then quite quickly clarify down to what space you're in. You might be either a student or a scholar. So you have to have a PhD or 5 years or more relevant experience as a scholar. You will have to establish an affiliation with the US institution. For scholars, professionals, there's a broad category. There's a minimum of 3 months that you can go, a maximum of 12 months. Different awards do specify different timescales as well. If you're a postgraduate student, you have to go for a minimum of 4 months to a maximum of 12 months. And again, the same thing applies. Depending on the award, there might be different eligibilities and different requirements for timescales. We have a number of different sponsored awards. We haven't actually put everything in here, but you can see some of the potentially interesting ones that applicants might like to apply to. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Creative Ireland program. We recently actually set up a Heritage Council award as well, so that's going live from Thursday. And then we have these awards that with the Harry Ransom Centre at Smithsonian Institution Exploratorium. Again, for the people on this call, they may well be interesting. But I'm always quite interested in the idea that if your work touches off agriculture or touches off environmental or even healthcare, there is always a potential to apply to other sponsored awards. So there's quite an interest in the sponsor to look for people bringing ideas from different directions as well. So again, having a look at their strategy and make some decisions on that basis. So kind of relevant ones, I suppose, for thinking about today are the Museum Fellowship at Exploratorium in San Francisco, the fellowship in the Harry Ransom Center in Austin, Texas, and then fellowship in Smithsonian, which is primarily based in Washington, D.C., but there are areas beyond that. And again, for students, so you can apply for an all disciplines award. So all disciplines, just stepping back, really means that. So it's any area. So it's likely that everybody on this call could apply for, assuming other eligibilities, which you could apply for an all disciplines award as well. So that always persists. There's always an all disciplines. So we take people from across all sorts of broad categories. There really isn't an area that we don't support other than clinical research, medical clinical research. If you're applying then as a scholar and professional, there are all of these awards that you can consider. Again, the Museum Fellowship at Exploratorium also accepts scholars professionals. The NUI Scholar Award for early career postdoctoral may or may not suit people on this call, but if your primary degree is from an NUI university and you're continuing on for research at a postdoctoral level, you could consider the Scholar Award. Again, there is no specific area, so it's all disciplines on that. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Fulbright-Creative Ireland Fellowship Award now. And we also, as I mentioned, we have a new Fulbright Heritage Council Award. So that might be of interest to some people. As well, it's a program that doesn't directly run through the Fulbright Commission in Ireland. It does through Fulbright in the US, but it's the Fulbright National Archives Heritage Science Fellowship Award. A different deadline, but you can consider looking through our website and you will see that listed as a specific award. So talking today then about the Fulbright Creative Ireland Professional Award. It's Ireland from the US, as they all tend to be. It's specifically for a minimum of 3 months and a maximum of 6 months. This is a scholar professional award, and it's open to Irish citizens or EU citizens and UK citizens. The latter two, if you've been living in Ireland for more than 5 years. So this specific award then is looking at professionals with at least 7 years experience working in the creative, cultural or heritage sector. And there's an opportunity then to apply for this. You should select where your host institution is. And as we've stated, it is for minimum 3, maximum 6 months in the US. As with all Fulbright Awards, we say preference tends to go to people who have not already got any or extensive experience in the US. But that's never a barrier to application. And we would have certainly many Fulbrighters who have spent some time or had some experience in the US. It's not an absolute barrier. It's just really a potential preference for that. In terms of the actual program, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the generic aspects of applying for a Fulbright application, because it's quite similar through all of the process. But the rationale for going to the US and a clear understanding of what the Fulbright program is about is always very important. So I think this is a good segue to maybe talk a little bit more about the people who've already done this. And we're going to hear today from Kevin McDermott. So he'll be able to talk about the program. But we've had a number of other people over the years who have applied through this program, and it's been very, very successful. So for anybody on the call thinking, well, I don't know, do I fit? You probably do. Understand that obviously it's a global application process. So sometimes there's a little bit of square peg round hole, but all of these people have gotten through that. If you have any queries as well, the Fulbright Commission here in Ireland, we're always very happy to kind of help guide you a little bit if there's something that you're wondering, does that mean me or does that mean something different? Quite happy to do a translation just to understand that the actual application is a global program. So it's a kind of one size fits all to an extent. But the application is reviewed by it's reviewed then by the Irish Commission, and our reviewers and our interviewers as well understand better understand the spaces that you're coming from. So we've had some excellent people who have really had a great experience and continue to engage with us. We talk about the life-changing experience, but certainly they come back to us and they talk about the experience they've had as a Fulbrighter and as their time in the States. And really, because they've adopted and kind of gone in the way we had hoped, in the sense of not just traveling to the States, but becoming part of the US, experiencing it, really being there, going as a Fulbrighter. It is a little bit different from going, it's quite different actually, from going by yourself or going even on many other awards programs, because we're very much focused on the person. So there's an opportunity after I've finished talking for Kevin to come in and offer his 2 or 3 cents worth and just give you a view from his experience and his views on it. But I'm delighted as well to be able to today bring Tanya Benotti, who is the Director of Creative Ireland and has been a great partner over the last, we're heading towards a decade now, Tanya, and I think in 2 years' time we'll hit a decade, so time has moved on, but it's been a good engagement from our point of view. So Tanya, over to you.
Thanks very much, Dara, and thank you all so much for your interest in the Creative Ireland Fulbright Award. I know there are questions in the chat which Dara will answer at the end. And I suppose before we go to the first slide, Dara, to say to people that the slide that Dara put up of the previous Creative Ireland Fulbright Awards, they were a very different beast from what we're talking about now. So previously there was a focus, shall we say, more on the academic institutions. So the list that Dara sent you showed there was a lot of archaeology and people going to the Smithsonian and the Exploratorium. What we're here today to talk about is what I think is a really exciting new opportunity for professionals. So I really want to stress, and I know Dara has done it already, but having been through a couple of these webinars and knowing some of the people on this call, please do not feel you need a PhD or you are on track for a PhD. That is not the purpose of these awards. But Dara will go into the generic standard application for Fulbright. So sometimes people get a bit panicked when they see, give us a list of your publications. So I just want to say straight from the outset that in case the application form suggests you, jeepers, I need to be an academic having published, that's not the case. So the difference for these awards, which we are going to be running to the end of the lifetime of the current Creative Ireland programme, so that's up till 2027. So for those of you who are listening and think, jeepers, it's not for me this year, but I'll keep it on my radar, rest assured, we're here for the long haul. So we will be funding these in future years. However, I think the big change in the last year, and it's something that Minister Catherine Martin was very keen on when she agreed the funding, was to try and find a link between the areas of work of the Creative Ireland programme and your areas of creative interest, of research interest, of learning interest. So I might just ask you to put up the next slide, Dara. So what we're looking for are people, gosh, I don't know that we can see down there, but that's okay. I can talk you through very quickly the 5 pillars of the Creative Ireland programme. So what we're asking and what we're really keen to see are applications from artists and the wider creative sector who are working in some of the areas we're working in, so that your experience in the Fulbright can also inform our programme. It's not to say you have to, but I did want to just make a plea because these areas are very broad, so you would probably fall into some or other of them. Under Creative Youth, and those of you who know Creative Ireland know that there's an all-of-government plan to enable the creative potential of every young person living in Ireland. So we're working in formal education settings in about 700 schools. We're working in youth work settings. We're working with the most marginalised children leaving care in Oberstown Youth Detention Facility. So it's both a generic across all schools and all school types and targeted. And it's all about offering creative opportunities to young people to express their creative potential. So over the years of the program, we will have worked with a number of different educators, people interested in creativity, children and young people. We do Crinnew na nÓg. We are the only country in the world to have a national day that celebrates the creativity of children and young people. That all happens under Creative Youth. And again, I'm happy in the chat to answer any questions you have. Creative communities, and I may have some of my colleagues on this call. We have a dedicated culture and creativity team in every local authority. So this area of research might encompass the role of culture, the arts and creativity in placemaking, in economic regeneration, and in offering creative opportunities to people at very much a local level, particularly in rural Ireland, where, as I say, there's now a culture and creativity team in every local authority. There's been a huge body of work done under that pillar, and lots of different threads have come out from it. Under creative industries, we have a very specific and targeted role in Creative Ireland. So we were asked by the government to develop a roadmap for the digital creative industries. So some of you on the call I recognise already working in the film industry. That's not this pillar. We are specifically looking at areas adjacent to film, TV, drama and animation. So the state has very generously supported those sectors for 45 years. Now the state is saying, how can we help the game sector, the augmented and virtual reality sector, and the strategic design sector. So sectors that might be kind of adjacent to the traditional film, TV, drama, and animation. So we have a roadmap for that. It's all available on our website. So anybody working in design, AR, VR, commercial creative industries, that kind of thing, might have an interest in doing some research in the States. Our creative health and well-being pillar is very much focused on partnering with the Department of Health, the HSE and the Arts Council. And that's about the role of arts and culture in healthcare policy and healthcare settings. So some of you may have seen that during COVID, we pivoted and we did 1,840 concerts using professional musicians and singers at nursing homes all over Ireland when those nursing homes were closed to the public and closed to families. Out of that has grown a whole pillar of our work looking at the role of arts and culture in healthcare. That can be all aspects of healthcare, from end of life. I see Dominic on the call, so death, dying and bereavement, acute hospital settings, community settings, social prescribing. There's a vast number of people working at the intersection of arts and health. And lastly, creative climate action and sustainability. So another area of Creative Ireland is harnessing the talents of the arts, culture and creative sector towards community action on climate change. So we currently have a €6 million fund, 41 projects from the north of Ireland. It's a shared island fund. So we go from Northern Ireland right down to West Cork and West Kerry with a number of different creative projects, all kinds of creative projects. And I should say, across the pillars, we're not just talking about what you might call the arts under the Arts Act. So it is music of all genres, it is dance, it is theatre, it is visual arts, it is rap. It is also heritage, architecture, graffiti. We have a very Catholic and broad definition of creativity. And that is very much true in our climate action projects, where there's all kinds of different creative approaches to community climate action. So in summary, those are the main areas of work of Creative Ireland, and we're very keen if there are people on this call that have a research interest or would wish to partner up with a cultural or creative organisation. As I say, it doesn't have to be an academic institution in the USA. If there's somebody that you feel, I want to go over, I want to spend time and I want to bring that learning back, and that learning can inform our programme, we would be absolutely delighted. So just for my final slide, Dara, to say, clearly, we feel that the role of creativity brings all these options to the conversation, and having somebody who, as you hear from Kevin, has had the privilege of this incredible Fulbright network, an amazing network that will last you the rest of your professional career, but can bring back interesting developments from the US that we won't be aware of, would be really interesting. Thanks, Dara.
Anya, thank you very much. That's great oversight that we would never be able to give. So it's great to have you on the call. Appreciate that. Cover across so many areas, the all disciplines being the all disciplines as well. So just to add to Tanya as well, it's if some of the areas that you feel you're not quite in for the particular Creative Ireland Award, please do consider you're still in it for the Fulbright All Disciplines Award. Okay, so you don't need to self-select out. So we've probably we've gone through a lot of this previously before, so I don't need to go through it again. 31st of October is the deadline, 4 p.m. Irish time. So it's fairly precise deadline as well. What you have to provide then in the application is personal information and your CV. And a Fulbright statement, personal statement. This is very important, actually. This is very much about you. So this is something that that is a little bit different. Many people apply for grants and awards are less experienced, or just have not had to do this before. And because it's about you, in one sense, it should be easy to write, and it can be. But at the same time, I would say, do reach out to friends, or do reach out to other Fulbrighters, just to get a sense for how do I talk about myself. You have your project statement. We say project statement, but it's really what is it that you want to do when you're in the States. You have 3 recommenders, for professional recommenders, a copy of your passport just to establish your eligibility, and samples of work for artists. So providing online access, I guess, is usually easiest. Hard copies as necessary. And a letter of affiliation. What that is that your host, whoever is going to be your appropriate host in the US, just get a letter to say from them to say that they are happy to host you, they're happy to work with you, so that we know and you know when you go there that they are actually going to provide the kind of base that you need to do the work and have the experience that you want to have there. So again, knowing who you want to work with, we're very, very interested in diversity across a whole myriad of things, but including where you go to in the States. So where you come from, by the way, is important to us as well, but also where you go to. You would probably expect that there is a propensity to go to the East and West Coast. So as a result, we're actually very interested in people who are not going to East Coast or West Coast, but actually are going to go and explore other parts of the United States. Big country, many, many different institutions, many people doing excellent work. And sometimes you get a chance to be, a rock star in Butte, Montana, that you might not get to be in New York. You could be an Irish Fulbright awardee in Butte, Montana, and be highly recognized for that. Creating those links, if you don't know already where you want to go to, obviously look in your area and consider who you might want to go to. You can reach out to also Irish and US alum, for those who've already trod this path, and consider where good experience might be had. Ask your colleagues, and reach out to host institutions. It's an interesting thing, but typically we find when people reach out, you're pushing a kind of a semi-open door already in the US. Fulbright is a very well-established and very well-known and quite prestigious program. So it tends to be quite easy to start the conversations saying, I'd like to come to your institution or to your, to your group as a Fulbright awardee. In terms of your research objectives, or whatever the work you're going to do, or the learnings you're going to get there, why is it important? Why is it important to you? Why is it important maybe to your area, your industry? Why the US? And be clear about that. Why it has to be the United States. Be as specific as you can. If it's too broad ranging, it becomes very hard for you to as well kind of stand over it. So it should be very much, you should best understand it. If you don't understand it very, you can't encapsulate it, then you'll struggle to explain that to us as well. So have a look at your objectives and expected result. Again, that's very broad, and it can be very personalized what that actually is. It's not necessarily that if you take the academic point, that you don't necessarily have to have a paper or even a book. It's really why go there, and then what will you do and what will you get from it? And what impact will that have potentially on you, on your discipline, in your discipline, and also in your career. So we're really interested to see where the value is as well, not just the work you're going to do, but the value to you as well. Why you, and why now, and why the USA? So your statement, as I said, it is very much about you. Please do tell us about you. We're hugely interested in understanding you. We're interested in diversity of people, but we're interested in, everybody really has their own story to tell. And, hopefully Kevin kind of will attest to this, but we're hugely interested in you as a person, because that's really what Fulbright invests in. Like Creative Ireland are investing in you in specific areas, but we're investing in you as a person, as an ambassador from Ireland, and an ambassador who brings part of the States back to Ireland. So again, understanding what we're looking for, or what it would mean to be a Fulbrighter, that cultural connection, being part of a larger network, being part of a Fulbright family. These are important. So please do talk about yourself. Do open up. It's the strongest, I guess, hint to success I can tell you is probably say, do talk about your experiences and yourself and why this matters to you. Process in general terms, there is a review, so academic professional record and project statement, not to scare off the people maybe who are not academic, but really there will be peers who kind of say, well, okay, this person does make sense and what they want to do does make sense. So, and can give the commission and the program broadly in the States a view on that. And we would look at your ability as well for cultural and leadership and engagement. That's really about what value will you get from this and what value will you bring to this? So why would the Fulbright platform or program really support you and support this program? So that's part of what we're looking for. If you get to interview, that flips around. So there's less discussion really about the work you're going to do. We will talk about it, but it's really more about you and where you want to go and what you want to get from this. So don't be surprised, and people sometimes still are, if you're in an interview and you're asked personal opinions more, about what drives you, why do you want to go somewhere, why do you want to do something, we're less interested in talking to you through the prism of the work you're going to do, more to you as a person. So don't be surprised if that happens. In terms of the resources, there are lots of them. Again, if you happen to be close to or affiliated or in any of the Irish institutions, you can obviously talk to Fulbright ambassadors that are Fulbrighters who have already done this, and they're happy to talk about their experience. There are lots of videos and testimonials. There's lots of information that you can find, all primarily through our website. And you can follow affiliate groups. You can reach out to people, at a top level. That probably is the important thing to do. I mentioned that we're very interested in diversity and inclusion. So we're really, really open, wherever people come from. It's quite a rich program already, culturally, and we're happy to continue that rich engagement across all sorts of areas of diversity. So be very, these are things we're interested to find out as well. Just can I take in a snapshot to say that 90% of successful awardees have attended a Fulbright roadshow or webinar. So congratulations, you're in the 90% already. 50% to those who started but did not complete an application, did not engage with any supports. So I guess what you can read from that is that, there's no reason not to engage with some of the supports. There are no silly questions. Please do ask them either from us or from colleagues or from people who've previously achieved a Fulbright Award. There's a lot of easy answers that you can get to that maybe you might struggle. So if it's on the application process, or it's about how do I frame this, or even just a sounding board to say, why am I going and why there? These are good questions you can speak to other people. So if you find that you're struggling, then don't be the 50% that stopped at that point. Be the 50% who actually engaged with supports. Really, it's easy for me to say, but I'm just repeating what many, many Fulbright applicants, not necessarily even awardees, have said to me. There really are, there's no real downside to applying for a Fulbright Award except for your time, and it's time well spent. And the reason I say this is because it's forced you to consider what you might want to do, where you want to go in a different way, in a more personalized way. At the very worst, if you haven't, if you're not successful getting the award, but you have already reached out to colleagues in the States, that door is now open and you can do with that as you will. Through the application process as well, you can retain that information. There might be an application for a new job or a new program or a project elsewhere. So it's good information that you're doing. So you're really helping yourself at this stage. As I said, you are typically pushing an open door in the United States and you're joining a Fulbright family. These are all very important parts of the Fulbright program. And I go back to the second thing there about the 50%. Do reach out, do look for supports. Don't stop. Don't be the 50% who don't look for that. Do be the 50% who do. So your next steps, if you can at all, talk to a Fulbrighter such as Kevin, obviously interrogate our website. There's a lot of information there. And if you have any non-standard queries, then absolutely please reach out to our, you can reach out to ward@fulbright.ie and one of the team will come back to you. So having spoken about the process and Tanya having spoken about the award, it's great then to be able to get Kevin to come up and talk as a person who's done that. So Kevin, I'm going to hand over to you and thanks very much for being on the call today.
Hi, Dara. And I was trying to unmute myself there. Thank you very much. And thanks to Tanya as well. To all the people who are thinking of applying, I'd just say, go ahead, please do. I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity. Imagine going to Anna McCarrick, say, for a week, and you know, at the artist's retreat and the writer's retreat, and you have time to read, to think, to do a bit of writing, to meet people who are equally passionate about their work, to discuss, have your ideas interrogated, interrogate their ideas, expand your thinking, and have a blast. Only it's not for a week, it's for 4 months in my case. And it wasn't in Anna McCarrick, wonderful as that is, it was in the fantastic location of UC Berkeley and Berkeley in California. And I've chosen that for a specific reason because the National Writing Project is housed there. And my interest was in creative writing workshops with marginalized groups and how you facilitate those. And the environment itself was really stimulating. I mean, here, this is the home of Judith Butler, for example, probably the foremost philosopher in the world today. And I'm reading one of her papers sitting in the Doe Library, and Judith Butler walks in, and there's kind of a sense of going, wow, this is fantastic. And it was fantastic. Or Arlie Hochschild, probably, you know, whose work on emotional labor has changed people's perceptions. Because I was a Fulbrighter and got invited to interesting conferences, I ended up having coffee with Arlie Hochschild and having a really interesting discussion about how you bridge differences across the many divides in the States today. And again, when I told some colleagues and friends that had happened, they were mad with jealousy. But again, being a Fulbrighter had invited me to a conference with about 25 people and Arlie Hochschild as the conference speaker. So it was a fantastic opportunity, full of amazing people. My interest, as I said, was in marginalized groups and how you facilitate creative writing with those and what's the ethical dimensions of that. And because of that interest and because I was a Fulbrighter, all kinds of doors were opened. And so I got to meet colleagues who were working with queer and trans women on UC Berkeley, trying to make them feel included in that world. Impoverished African American youth. I got to work with some African American facilitators who were working in that context in Oakland, which is the city beside Berkeley. I met a fantastic theater group who were working with formerly incarcerated persons. And that was a fantastic theater project, and how that began from writing, talking about life stories, which was one of my interests, and how it developed into theater performance. I met colleagues, Larry Bogdad in UC Davis, who was working with Mexican migrant laborers and talking about how you gather their stories and how what he did, tactical performance, how you both celebrate the culture and also demand better working conditions. Think mockness with political attitude. So these are all fantastic people. I met Malcolm McLaurian, who's kind of a hero of mine, who's done so much for Native American rights and art in California, and his work with the Ohlone tribe. So I got to meet members of the Ohlone tribe. None of that would have been possible. That's Malcolm there. And he has been unwell out of public speaking for a long time, but he came to an event, an Ohlone event, and I got to speak to him. And that was just one of the highlights of my trip to meet Malcolm. But none of that would have been possible without, going to as a Fulbrighter and having the support of the Fulbright. And of course, I'm an older white male, straight man, and many of the groups I were working with look upon older straight white males as, in some ways, the agents of their oppression. And so that took a little bit of negotiating. And again, being a Fulbrighter, and having friends and being able to introduce me allowed me to learn from people who otherwise mightn't really have been comfortable speaking with me. And America is a really complex, that's to say the obvious, it's a complex society. And there was a lot of negotiating that as an older white man. But the Fulbright did help me do that. Well, I'm just looking at my notes to say, oh yeah, it was immensely stimulating. Apart from the work on facilitating workshops, my own writing, I had great chance to write. I write across a whole range of genre, but I ended up writing probably a lot of poetry. And that was in response to going to a reading of Ada Limon, the Nobel laureate, the poet laureate rather, of the United States, and an anthology she had just published on nature. And I ended up, there's that photograph there in Muir Woods outside San Francisco in the Redwoods. I began to think about nature and climate change, and I wrote a suite of poems around that, some of which are going to be published in Skylight 47. But it was stimulating from a personal writing point of view. It's fantastically stimulating. The host institution I went to was the National Writing Project. I didn't have a huge personal connection with them, but I was aware of their work for the last 45 years and had done a lot of parallel work to theirs. So when I wrote to them and said I was coming and what my area of interest was, they were, as Dara said, immediately welcoming and said, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have a Fulbrighter over. And anything we can do to facilitate you, we will. And Tanya Baker, the director of the National Writing Project, became a really good friend, and I hope will become a lifelong friend. And that was fantastic. And there were three pillars of the National Writing Project: that people who teach writing should be writers themselves, that teacher writers learn best from each other, and that people should be examining their own practice and theorizing that practice. And they were all things that I really loved and was passionate about. So that was a fantastic fit. And my approach was really clear. I wrote as clearly as I could what I wanted to achieve, what I hoped I would get from being in contact with them, and they welcomed me with open arms. One thing about applications, just to say about applications, the first thing I began with, and everyone is different, but I began with writing a clear project statement, as clear as I could. And when I was happy with that, I kind of proceeded next stage, which was to get a host institution. And when I had that, then I began on all the, the personal statement. And I worked on the application a little and often, a little and often. And Dara says it's long and but it's well worth investing the time. And you find yourself examining your own presuppositions and assumptions, and in that it's stimulating. But in a word, I'd say the experience was different than I had anticipated and well beyond my expectations. And it was really a fantastic experience and also full of fun. I mean, we went on literary pilgrimages to Jack London's home and to Robinson Jeffers' tour in Carmel-upon-Sea, which is modelled on Tour Valley Lee. So we had a lot of fun times, and all the interactions were very friendly, but also immensely stimulating. And yeah, I encourage you to apply with all my heart. Thanks, Darren.
Evan, thanks a million. Very much appreciated. If you're comfortable, stay on the call, just if there's any questions. Eva, I don't know if you want to join us as well. I'm just going to, before I kind of, obviously finish up, we have a little bit of time now to go through some of the Q&A questions. I will say that if some of them are very specific, we're quite happy to take them offline. And if you want to contact us with those specific questions, we're happy to do that. So some of the answers are probably a little bit more generic, but there's two questions there really. You're talking about the possibility of multiple organizations. So we're looking for research engagement purposes could work well. I guess primarily it's about your experience over there. If you're moving too much, so I won't say it's not, but if you're bouncing around, then you might have less opportunity to actually connect, and really, it becomes a labor of travel and trying to set yourself up in different housing and be in different places. If it's that one places, the places are quite close to each other, then maybe you can set a base and you can obviously travel. It also means that you have to set up different host applications. So it's not the norm. There is a possibility to do that, particularly if it makes sense. So, I would say in the broad sense of, if you're not bouncing around too much and there is a real story and a rationale behind it, well then, certainly make your case and understand that. And we could certainly, if you get to an interview stage, we could discuss about, the practicalities of it. But I would say first and foremost, look at the practicalities and the experience that you might have if you're going to too many places. I'm just reading question. Somebody is asking, would it be possible for me to connect with MA level course providers?
Dara, while you're maybe just having a read of those questions, can I just mention something, just conscious that there's other application deadlines, but it is really important. The application date is coming close. And so having the time now to reach out to potential receiving institutions, I really would urge you, like Kevin was saying, to kind of start there, because that is the key thing. And I think it would be fair to say, Dara, that you'd be looking to kind of, it's not just a sort of a generic, yeah, we'd love to have you, whatever you want to do. We want to get the sense that the receiving institution, you've actually had a decent conversation. They know why you're coming. So to allow yourself enough time, particularly if it's not a specific institution that's been listed on some of the earlier slides of Dara, just enough time to reach out to those receiving institutions.
Thanks, Tanya. So in terms of the question about the MA, look, it's the question that Catherine had put up there. Catherine, if it makes sense for you that this work you want to do has value, then absolutely. I think it's it's something you can certainly do. Margaret asked about going to Puerto Rico. We actually have somebody this year going there. So yes, is the answer to that. Do we talk about what we have do already in the field as well as we want to do? So the question is, somebody's here that they're a bit confused about what type of projects you want us to go with that will fill the remit of what you want. Well, two parts to that. One is that if you look at the pillars that Tanya was talking about, does it fit under those pillars? That's your starting point. The second part then of what we want is we're actually agnostic, as long as it makes sense for why you want to go and the work you want to do there. It's really down to you. So I can't be like, I don't want to be so prescriptive that it puts everybody else off, but it should make sense for you, the work you want to do. Certainly talk about maybe the work you have done. If it's work you've done and you want to build upon that, fine. Or if you've done this area of work, but now you see there's an opportunity for you to develop in a different area, that in itself is a story. It's a personalized story based on the work you want to do as well. That's the easiest way to describe it. So it is very much, we're not prescriptive in what we want from you. You should know what you want to bring and why you want to go. Just curious how many Fulbright Awards are given to, available or given to the visual arts. Piece of string on that one, I have to say, but we would have all disciplines. We would have painters and writers, and so we have people across all disciplines, obviously, but we would have quite a number of people in visual arts as well. If you look through our alumni on our website, you'll see quite a number across that. Somebody, I'm a researcher teacher from the USA. I'd like to work in Ireland. Is there a similar webinar for US faculty wanting to connect to work in Ireland? Well, the programs are currently open. So to that person, anonymous attendee, I would say, please do go and look at our website and look from, so we have going to the USA and coming from the USA. So go look at the coming from USA. You'll see all the different awards that are currently open at a scholar and a student level. So there's quite a lot there. It's extensive number. And again, the all disciplines works for that as well. So you could certainly be, you could apply under the all disciplines if there's no specific award there that catches your eye. If the host organization isn't an academic one, but an expert in terms of what Fulbright does for the organization, full-time support, well, they need to be able to host you, and they need to be able to give you access to whatever information you need, or, whatever you need to carry out the work you're going to do there. Your host institution should be able to provide that. That's a kind of a key requirement. So if they're not in a position to provide that, are they affiliated with someone else or another group or an institution that can provide that. That's a second opportunity. Again, that was a question. Would we recommend approaching more than one possible host organization at this stage? Certainly. You know, if it makes sense and you're still trying to work out exactly as you hone down your application, but at some point I would say, be clear, it should make sense why you want to go to this area. And bear in mind that we're a cultural exchange program. We're very interested in what you'll get from the States and how your engagement in that area of the US. So you're not going to the USA, you're going to a very specific part of the USA, which can be hugely different from other specific parts. So again, yes, certainly reach out, see what the potential is, but then craft your story down and why it makes sense for you to go to this institution. How plausible is it to remain in the US after the program ends? Well, the expectation is you come back to Ireland. That's our primary focus, that you go to the States and come back to Ireland. You're an ambassador that brings that back. There are people who have applied for, you know, if they've been extended, you know, if you're going to do a master's or PhD, well, obviously you need to be there for longer and your host institution becomes your sponsor. But the 2-year home rule does apply on this J1 visa. So if you are going to extend past that, then you have to go past that whole, look for some sort of an exemption waiver from the 2-year home rule, which isn't necessarily granted. So just know that now. Can people from Northern Ireland with Irish passports apply? Absolutely. And if you have a British passport, but you're living in the Republic of Ireland for 5 years or more, you can also apply. Or if you're an EU citizen living in the Republic of Ireland for more than 5 years, then you can also apply. So Northern Ireland, Irish passports, absolutely. If you're living in Northern Ireland, but you have a UK passport, in that instance, you need to apply to the UK Commission because it's different in terms of the visa development, the program development. Does the host have to state why they're happy to host you? I think it would help. You know, it would give, from your own point of view, and also then from the reviewers and from everybody's point of view, to say, well, you know, they are happy to host. So, I mean, if you have to tell them why they should be happy, you know, maybe that's, I can appreciate sometimes in larger institutions, it can be by rote, yes, we're happy to accept you. And we do sometimes see that. But I think from your own point of view, it'd be nice for them to know that they're valuing your coming. Is the next deadline August 2025? No, the deadline is this October. So the applications open this Thursday and then they close at the end of October 2024 for people who are going to go out from August 2025 to August 2026. So you're applying now to go out from next summer onwards. If you're thinking of going to a university, to college can be absolutely anywhere in the US. No, it's absolutely anywhere. In fact, as I've said a number of times, we really look for diversity as well. We do have some programs that specifically connect with institutions, but actually we're open to all institutions in the US. And there's a variety. They can be institutes, they can be, de facto research working groups as well. So if you have any query about a specific, if you think it fits out, it's slightly outside the box, by all means, do contact awards at fulbright.ie, and we can certainly give you a kind of a heads up on the suitability of the host. But largely we find at a professional level and an academic level, the hosts, the reason you want to go to them is that they have the value that all other hosts would provide. When are successful applicants informed? You'll hear in March next year. Does the host organization provide your accommodation? They might do. If they don't, certainly I would ask them, have they suggested where accommodation can be found, or you can go broader than that. You can talk to us, talk to other Fulbrighters and do that. It's not an absolute requirement. It's really that they will host you so that you can do the work you want to do. So the recommendations, as I said, that there really should be, so the question was, should there be working professionals, academics, colleagues? Yes, certainly they should understand something about you in your professional capacity. That's really, so it's a professional recommendation that we're looking for. When recipients of the awards bring back fresh knowledge to Ireland and reflect on the experience, what is the time frame for sharing documentation back home? That's much looser. I mean, Tanya had spoken about getting, you know, there's information that Creative Ireland certainly do look for and use, and that's a value.
I can answer that, Dara. I mean, at the very least, we would expect a blog when you come back. But depending on your area of research, I've gone through the pillars and happy to explain anything more about the pillars. But we would then seek to go, well, if that person is bringing that knowledge back from the States, who else can we link them up with that's working in that area? So the minimum requirement is kind of a blog to tell people about your experience, or like Kevin hopping on a future webinar. But beyond that, now that we're tying it more tightly to the very broad range of Creative Ireland, we'd be looking to see how you would be able to link in with our work.
Yeah, and at a Fulbright level, then our partner in the US they're on the ground, the Institute of International Education, they will then at different stages, but certainly at the end, they will ask you to fill out a kind of a form with some details and provide us with that. Now, Eva's who's on the call, she would also say, as you're there and as you're going, please contact us when you've done something or something interesting, please do contact us and we share all that. So it's an ongoing process, actually. You start that process from day one. Take photographs as well. Unfortunately, we've moved into the world that if you don't take a photo, maybe it never happened. It's a move in that kind of direction. But certainly record all that, and record all that for your own personal posterity. And, you know, that's really where some of the best memories come from. So the reporting of information can come in multiple forms. There's a reasonably minor form you fill out for IAE that comes through to us. And then, as Tanya said, there are key things that provide the most benefit for Creative Ireland and all of our opportunity to promote you and support you. So it's you know, it's a win-win-win situation there. Sorry, Angela's asking to clarify, do they only need to supply access to research materials for my work? Yeah, and if you need site access, if you need to be on site, if you need an office, or you need a space, or you need a desk, you know, in the library or in the institution, whatever you need to carry out the work. They don't necessarily, you know, beyond that, you know, it can be very bespoke. So there is no singular answer to that. It's really, you know, probably a place that you can get access to what you need, access to the institution as well, and to be able to engage with them, you know, so not a remote access, but where you can actually go on and you can meet with your colleagues there and be available in the wider community. It's a big thing as well. Does include a bursary, e.g. to cover accommodation, living costs. That's what the award is. That's the award that comes through. So the monetary award is, it's monthly management rate with coupled with flight costs. So that's what that award is about. The institution doesn't necessarily have to offer you any financial support. Somebody asked about, this is a different one now, Fulbright specialist candidate, presumably they're coming from the US specialist. Just as a generic answer to that, I would contact, it's an institutional application. So contact the institution that you would like to be your host, and then they will apply to us. So that program is currently open. So do reach out to the Irish institution and discuss that they can apply to the program, the US specialist program. Is there a rough application date for 2025? Yeah, I would say it's going to be the end of August 2025. That's usually our start date for the program. So if it doesn't work for you this year, certainly we're not going anywhere. And as Tanya said, even this award should be available until 2027. So it'll be August 2025.
There's no age restriction. Sure there isn't, Tara?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Well, 18 probably upwards. So it's not going up. There's no, and we certainly have people from all ages who have applied and been had a great and very successful Fulbright experience. So absolutely not. Oh, sorry. So somebody who'd asked, my previous question was more about, should the Fulbrighter be offering something to the host in terms of work? Well, it should make sense, but you're not there to work on their behalf per se. If there's an opportunity to lecture or teach, yes. But you're not going there as an employee per se. It's really an engagement. So whatever makes sense is that you're bringing something to them, or you want to liaise, or you want to develop something with them, whatever that's happened. But it's not an employment contract that you're going on. It's a Fulbright experience that you're going on that is focused on an area of interest for you.
And Dara, just the number of awards you're planning to make?
Well, I suppose for the Creative Ireland Award, we're probably looking at, it probably will be one, I would presume, Tanya, that it's unlikely, possibly two, but probably down to one. Across the broad spectrum of awards I spoke about there, I mean, people can apply, everybody in this call can apply for an All Disciplines Award. You could look at the Heritage Ireland Awards. You could look at, even as I mentioned, even the other sponsored awards that you might fit into it. I mentioned the Tech Impact Awards as well. So there probably are quite a number of spaces you can apply to. If you're applying as a professional, just remember you're in the professional scholar program. If you're on a course at the moment, and if you're on a postgraduate course already, or want to do a postgraduate course, then you're actually applying as a student. Your age is irrelevant in that. It's just that you're on a course that you're applying. So there's multiple opportunities across the different awards. Okay, I see we've got to 2 o'clock. So I'm going to tidy this up. We do have some of the questions here. I think we've covered most of them. Do you need extra money? Hopefully not, but where people want to live, and kind of the type of experience they want. They want to be downtown San Francisco, might be reasonably expensive, so you might have to consider that. But yeah, it is something to consider, where you want to go and what you want to do. But we aim to, and we've updated from Department of State, the monthly management rate. So it should be more suited to living in the States, and people coming to Ireland as well. That's all been upgraded. But again, cannot account for your actual requirements, and if you bring family or all of those aspects to it as well. So it's all part of the individualized mix. And as Aoife has uploaded there, this has been recorded. It will be available on our YouTube channel. So what it leads me to do is thanks very much to Tanya. That was great support, and it's lovely to get your input from the area and as a sponsor. And Kevin, thank you very much for the time and effort put into doing this. It's been, you've had a great Fulbright experience, and I think that's going to continue. So part of being the Fulbright experience and family as well is that you get an opportunity to talk about it and give back and encourage other people to also step up and take this opportunity. I'll leave you with a final message to say that nearly every Fulbrighter I've spoken to said, I didn't think I'd get it, but I'm so glad I applied. So if that's your take home message, then I would say that job done. So thank you very much to everybody. We're going to end the call at this stage. So best of luck. We hope to see your applications coming through.